So you've finished painting your model. You've spent a lot of time making sure to pay attention to all of those details. But that's not the end. You got to make sure that your model's protected over time. But there's one more thing that you have to do to protect all that time you invested into this model. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel for an impromptu video on sealing models. So this is a subject that I was wanting to touch on, but a lot of people have been requesting it here lately. So I figured that I would make a short video of this. So in today's video, I'm going to answer when to seal it, how to seal it, and of course, what to seal it with. So first and foremost, let me start off by saying that this is how I seal models. This is just a recommendation. There are tons of ways to seal a model and different products to use. So by all means, if you're having a good result out of that, then keep using it. This is meant for the people who are wanting to know about what I use in order to get that perfect finish. So I'm going to share a couple of secrets with you today, a couple of the products that I use, and I'm going to give you some pointers on when to seal your models and how to do it right. So a couple of things that sealing your models does. Number one, it's the big one, is it protects your paint. The second thing that it does, believe it or not, is it helps smooth out some of your paint lines. And the other thing that I see that it does is it gives you a smoother finish. So that covers the why do you seal your model. So let's step in the number two reason, and that's when do you seal your model. So at times whenever I'm doing skin tones and I have to do certain things like speckling onto a face or a head sculpt, I will seal the model beforehand. And that's because I just want to make sure that if I do screw up, that I could actually take some of that off and I could fix some of my mistakes. So another time that I usually seal a model is whenever I am working with one large area that I have to paint and I have to end up handling it. I seal it because I don't want to mess up the paint job. I don't want to get prints in it, fingerprints that is, and I don't want to get smudges or anything like that into the paint job. So in order for me to be able to handle that model, I just seal it. I put a light sealer on it and let it dry for probably about 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'm able to handle it. So another time that I'm usually sealing the model is whenever I work with pastels. So whenever I'm doing any shading of any kind and I don't want to make any smudges or anything like that within the pastel work, I'll go ahead and I'll seal it before I do any type of other painting. So yeah, also whenever I do a lot of detail work on a model and I don't want it to mess up of any sort, I spent countless hours in getting something right, I'll go ahead and I'll put a little light mist on it, seal it a little bit. That way I know that nothing's going to screw it up. So when you seal a model, when you put sealer on it, that is, or a part or a piece or something like that, it's so much easier to be able to take, like if you screw up and you splatter paint on it or drop your brush on it or something like that, just to take a wet cloth, a little bit of thinner, and just, you know, lightly take it off of there. I mean, it's pretty simple. So that's one of the main reasons whenever I decide that I'm gonna seal the model, and then, you know, I just want to make sure that I'm just protecting what I worked on. One thing you want to be careful with when you're putting sealer on your model is metallics, such as your silvers, brasses, golds, or something of that nature. You just want to be careful because when you do put sealer on there, it will dull that stuff out. And with your pearlescent paints, it'll do the same thing. The easy thing that I do seal it, but I'll go back over it, touch it up with the actual paint itself. I may dry brush it or just paint it back on or airbrush it. And then after I get that on there, I usually don't seal it anymore after that. So one thing I'll do is put washes on my metallics to kind of give them an aged effect. But after I seal it, then I'll go back over it and do some dry brushing to bring some of those highlights and accents back out. Don't forget, gloss coat is also considered a sealer whenever you want to make something look wet, such as the eyes or mouth or blood. And of course on the face, like I just said, with the eyes, the mouth, the teeth, lips, of course you want to seal that probably with a good gloss coat. Another thing that you can use sealer on is like your effects that you use for your bases. You want to make sure that that stuff stays in place, so you can apply a sealer to that. Yeah, when you're working with pearlized paints, it's important to make sure that when you do seal them, actually use something to bring that luster back out, bring that shine back out. Otherwise, it'll just look flat. And now the big one that everybody's been asking, and I've actually went over this in a few of my videos before, and that is, what do I use as a sealer? So this is my liquid gold in a can. Yes, you are looking at a rattle can. So this Color Max from Krylon here, I've been painting for 20, 30 years. And so far, this is the best sealer that I have used to date. You can see that they do have a flat, a satin, and a gloss clear. I use mainly the flat, but this stuff, I can't tell you how great it works. We're talking about vibrancy putting back into your model. It gives a good smooth finish to your paint. It's non-yellowing. It dries real good. And oh God, I mean, just the color accents of it, it brings so much of that back out in your models. Another great thing about it is the price. You could pick this up for around $5 a can at Lowe's or Home Depot, but I've been using this stuff here for probably about a year now. And I can tell you that the paint just looks great. So one of the questions that people have been asking also is, can you use too much sealer? The answer is yes. So too much sealer on your model can cause it to goop up in certain areas like cracks and crevices, and it just takes forever to dry. And then if it dries too quickly, it'll start to crack. So that's why whenever you seal a model in mid painting or something like that, do it with just a fine coat. Don't goop it down or anything like that. None of these models that you see behind me have a heavy coat of sealer on them. I mean, I just make it wet and let it dry on its own. So another question that people ask is, how long does it take for this stuff to dry? Really not that long. So what I do in some cases when I'm still working, I'm kind of in a groove and I don't want to put the model down, I'll take a hair dryer, kind of sit back a little bit with the model, kind of dry it off a little bit, and just kind of, I don't get too crazy with it. I'll dry it off a little bit, kind of get it started and set it down, and within 30 minutes, 45 tops, maybe an hour, I'm back painting again. So it doesn't take very long for this stuff to dry so where you can handle it. If you can, I recommend setting it up for 24 hours. That way the sealer hardens really good and it's got a really good bond to it. And that way you definitely won't have any type of blemishes or anything like that when you handle it. So all of these models here that you see were in fact sealed with this very same sealer that I just showed you. So yeah, I know I probably sound like a damn salesman for Krylon, but I'm just trying to help you guys out and letting you know what I seal my models with, which cheap, it's effective, and gets a good result. And to me, that's all that matters. Like I said, there's tons of stuff out there that you could use, but for me, you guys wanted to know, I kind of give you a little bit of my secret weapon here and share with you. But if you want to get good results, then, you know, a lot of times I'll tell you is don't buy cheap paint, but man, this is cheap stuff and it works really good. Well, there you go, everybody. I hope that helps you out some, and I hope that answers some of your questions about sealing a model or your 3D prints. And yes, this does work on FDM prints as well. So thank you for supporting the channel by watching these videos. And if you want to do it on a different level, there's other ways to do that, including my Patreon. There's a link for that below in the description. Plus, throwing a couple of bucks the channel's way helps me keep printing stuff and showing you different things and different techniques and tutorials. Now, I know this isn't the typical video that I usually put out, but I do want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it's some help to you. And until the next video, stay safe out there, get out, create something, print, prep, paint, repeat. And until the next one, we'll see you.